love Gorka suits, but what if I told you we can make it better? Well, if you're interested in finding out how to make this Gorka suit better, if it's possible, stay tuned.
The chance to begin again in a totally brand new opportunity and adventure.
Alright, welcome back, Hill Hunters. So on today's episode, we're going over something pretty darn cool. So, we all love Gorka suits. They're super big in culture right now. If you want to LARP or do airsoft as a Russian operator, your go-to is the Gorka suit. So, what we're going over today is a couple of options about some of the Gorka suits that we got. So here on my right, we've got a Commando Store Gorka suit, and here on my left, we also have a Commando Store Gorka suit. But as you can tell, this Gorka suit's laying a lot flatter than this one, and there's a reason for that. So when I think of a Gorka suit, I think of a kind of a cold weather suit that is meant to help me make it through the cold weather, make it through the hard brush in the woods, make it through whatever event that I'm trying to get through, and it does an excellent job at that. But I have been left feeling before that, you know, the Gorka suit's a relatively warm piece of gear and you can layer underneath it, but sometimes I just want to grab the Gorka suit and not have to worry about packing all the individual layers and playing math, putting everything in my bag, what I should wear, what I shouldn't wear. You know, what if I could just cut that out, you know? What if I could just make it warmer indefinitely? Well, let's just go ahead and take a look at the Gorka suit on my right. Again, this is from Commando Store. We have got, this is one that was made in Russia. This is the multicam black Gorka suit top from Commando Store. Great piece of gear. I'll give you some close-up looks of it, and I'll show the thing of where to go get this if you still can. There might be a couple left, but this was back when Commando Store was first making their I think it's the, let me just say that, the M1 series. So this is the modular version of the Gorka suit. As you can see inside, it's just fabric. There's no liner on the inside of this. It's very versatile, great piece of gear, got a big pocket on the inside, and can cinch up many different ways. And my favorite piece about this particular Gorka suit is the way that they've got the pits design where you can unzip it and dump some heat out. Really cool design. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's got a couple of different things on it too that this Gorka doesn't. It's got some Fedora reinforced like elbow. Unfortunately, they didn't leave an insert so I can put some padding underneath this. That would have made a huge difference in this Gorka suit, but I appreciate the Fedora fabric. It really does wear out your elbows in this area, especially when you're sitting and shooting, when you're laying down. These are going to be the first things to go, so I greatly appreciate that. But everything else on this Gorka suit top is top notch. Great piece of gear. And obviously, I love it. So, and many other people are going to love it too. But yeah, back to what I was saying, it could be warmer. And you know, as much as I love the top, and here's the bottom, you know, it's also got Fedora fabric on the wear spots, and greatly appreciate that. But, you know, it still leads me to desire, you know, there's nothing in here, it's just Nikon, and as great as that is, I just feel like there could be a little bit more done to it. So, that being said, my second pair, I got the KLMK camouflage one. They came out and I had to get it. This is my favorite camo of all time, especially where I live, where the green is literally matching perfectly. I got this piece and immediately I got it in a bigger size because I knew that this was going to be my dedicated winner. This was a better fit. It's a slimmer fit. So I use this for my day-to-day and going out and just doing some regular stuff. But if I'm wanting to go out camping or like get some serious cold weather, like 10 degrees weather, I'm wearing this bad boy. Let me just turn this around real quick. What's that? Oh, wait a minute. This is an M65 field jacket liner inside the Gorka suit. That is right. So, I had this M65 field liner laying around my house, and I just was sitting there thinking, you know, what could I do with this? You know, like it's clearly a great piece of gear. I'd wear it to go smoke my cigars out in the wintertime, and I really love just simply the liner as is. And I was just like, man, I love this piece of gear, and it is warm. But you know, I just wish I had something over the top of it so that it didn't get snagged, because the nylon in the inside is pretty weak, right? Well, I got this Gorka suit, and I immediately was like, I'm putting that shit in that. And boy, am I so glad I did, because it's a game changer. I'm talking about, I used to walk around with a Gorka suit on, and I used to start getting cold or feel the wind penetrate through the Gorka suit a little bit. It's not much. The Gorka suit does a really good job at keeping wind out, but for other things like a little bit of snow getting your Gorka suit damp, you would start to feel it pretty fast. But if you're wearing a waffle top and this extra little layer of nylon, especially if you spray the outside layer of this down with some water protection, some DWR, game changer, man. Spray the Gorka suit down, and then you spray the inside of this liner down, and you are good to go. Dude, it goes from being able to walk around for 2 hours, maybe at max in this Gorka suit before you're getting cold, to I can walk around for about half a day, maybe even more so than that. I don't get cold at all in this Gorka suit anymore. You add so much just by doing this liner trick. You add so much more heat to this system that it just changes the whole game completely. And at first, I thought about doing the liner, or if I could just go ahead and sew in the, you know, the fleece liner, the Polartec fleece liner, but I kind of talked myself out of that because they don't have easy access, like, to put inside something. It was going to have to be a custom job, and I was going to have to sew everything completely in. There's no buttonholes or nothing. So that's what really bought me on this, because it's super easy. All you need to do this is a M65 field jacket liner, match it to the size of your Gorka, and you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 buttons. 10 regular standard buttons. So let me tell you how you go about it. So you're asking yourself, all right, Hans, well, how do we do this? You know, I'm clearly interested. I want to improve my Gorka. I want to be able to have a winterized Gorka. So obviously, if you didn't know, there is winterized Gorkas with some felt already in them, but they're extremely hard to find and nobody's making them. And they go for a pretty penny. So I said, screw that, I'm going to make my own with what I already have. So what I had was the M65 pants liner, right? Cheap. I got these for like 10 bucks, and they make a world of difference, especially in the legs. You lose a lot of heat through your legs, but also at the same time, you don't need to layer as much on your legs because they produce so much heat. But I can tell a big difference when I have these in and when I don't. I am definitely losing a lot of heat through my legs. So just by adding the liner in the leg portion, which is the same thing as the jacket liner, you increase your heat retention by an immense amount. Step one, you buy the filled jacket liner and the filled pants liner. Easy peasy, should cost you around maybe 40 bucks at max. You could probably get these for 20 bucks. But you get it according to the size of your Gorka. And as you see here, we've got 3 holes on the liner for each side for them to go inside the system. And then on the jacket, you've also got 2 holes up top, and then you've got these attachment points for some more buttons on the inside of the sleeve so that these don't pull up and down and it stays stationary inside the jacket. So how do we do it? Bada bing, bada boom. And you can see that this jacket already has the buttons sewn in. I got some spare buttons from some spare pants that I got and cut them off that I was gonna trash anyway, so I decided to keep some of these buttons. And also I went and got some more. But you need 10 buttons for the jacket. You need 2 for the collar, 3 on each side, and then 1 and 1 for the wrist to stay in. So get your M65 liner and go ahead and put the liner inside the jacket. So essentially, we are putting the liner in the jacket how you would wear it. And we're going to go ahead and line the jacket up with the correlation of the holes with the corresponding holes on the M65 liner. So once you figure out where it falls, you need to get a marker or some kind of thing to mark the spot and hold it exactly where it's going to be. And I want you to take this marker and I want you to drop it back a little bit. See how where my button is behind this, because we don't want to interfere with anything right here. We want to be behind the stitching of the original. So I want to get the liner hole lined up behind where the stitching is for the extra zip up. And I want you to go through the hole and I want you to make a mark with your marker where that's going to be. And then I want you to just follow up the jacket and make sure that we are staying behind the original sewing spots on this jacket. And just follow it up the jacket, mark another spot, do the same on the other side. Same for the collar. The collar, we don't have a whole bunch of sewing, so you can be a little bit more lenient, but I suggest you go below and try to line up as best as you can up here between the loop. So again, you get the 2 holes, you line them up how you would wear them. You want to come through the hole with your marker, mark the spot on your jacket, and make sure that the spot is visible on the jacket where you can see to put the buttons at. And continue this all the way into, this is the trickiest part of the whole thing, which is the cuff. So turn the cuff inside out. And we are going to see that the button's already there, but I'm gonna have just one of the 2. You can do both if you want, but one's good enough for me. I've got the button laying right between those cross sections, so I want to take my little thing of where it would fall, line it up, get my marker in the 2 cross sections if that helps you, and I want to mark the spot with my marker on both cuffs. So now that you've got your spots marked, all you need now is some standard traditional buttons with the 4 holes or whatever buttons you may have laying around. Don't get any that are metal because they will get cold. Stick with plastic buttons and just keep them real basic, and make sure the buttons aren't massive or too tiny for the holes on the liner. So once you get the buttons sewed in, which is simple as simple can be, all you do is you go through one hole a couple of times, go through the next hole a couple of times, and try to keep it pretty tight so it doesn't leave a giant mark, and get thread that makes sense to your Gorka. So it's not very apparent. Don't get some light pink or some neon pink threading. It's gonna make the Gorka look weird. I went with green on this green Gorka, and you can barely tell it's not a part of this Gorka. Hey, many of y'all, if I showed y'all this, that the buttons are on the inside, you wouldn't think nothing about it. You'd be like, oh, okay, there's some buttons on the inside, but you wouldn't know it was modified. It doesn't make a big imprint, but it adds a lot more value to the Gorka system. So once you've sewed in these buttons, now all that's left to do is to take your liner and line it up and put it on in, and make sure on the first buttons, make sure that we are actually putting it in the right spot. Jacket now has a liner. You've just increased the value of your Gorka by at least 20% to 30% just by adding 10 buttons. It doesn't affect any of the Gorka. You haven't made any permanent changes, and you can always take the buttons off later if you want to. But now you have the ability to add a piece of already existing military gear that is going to guarantee you a little bit more warmth into your system. Now you have this piece of gear that you can just grab and go, walk outside, and you don't have to worry about grabbing everything else. It's already got the liner on the inside. Perfect. Does it add a bunch of weight? No. The liner is super lightweight. It doesn't add hardly any weight, but it does add some more volume. As you can see, here's the pants on the other Gorka suit. Lays a lot flatter. We've got insulation, so it's getting space between us and the cold weather, which is going to make it bigger. So keep that in mind. It will make the Gorka suit more bulky, but that's what you want to stay warm. Okay, so for the pants, we're doing the same process as the jacket. We get our filled liner, and we want to locate all of the holes that we need to sew into the system. So for the filled liner pants, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 6 buttons for the pants. Okay, well, let's get these folded up, sit right here. Let's get our Gorka pants. Okay, so there's no liner buttons on the bottom of the pants. They just kind of hang, so you don't have to worry about lining anything up down here. Everything's gonna be on the waistband of the insulation portion of the pants. So we need 6 buttons. I didn't have enough buttons, so I went to Hobby Lobby and got me some standard sized 4 button, and they're black. Kept the same thread, but this is a little bit trickier on the pants because there's just a couple of extra features. So, as we did before, take the pants, insert them as you would have them put on inside the pants. Alright, same process. Get yourself a marker, and I want you to put these pants on and just kind of figure out the button to button ratio, and I want you to come straight down with the pieces and just try to keep those buttons together, and I want you to come straight down below the main elastic part of this pants. Drop it just a little bit lower. You can see where this button sits. It sits right below the elastic piece where the Nikon is just standard, and I want you to get that, drop it to that right below the waistband, and give her a mark. And we're gonna go around the waist, and we're gonna do the same thing. Go below the waist elastic part of the waistband, right where the nylon is. We're gonna take our spot, we're gonna mark a spot for where our buttons go. So we continue to do that all the way around the pants. And then once we are done, as per usual, make sure everything's fitting, the buttons are where they're supposed to be. If they're not, just move them. Your Gorka pants now have insulation as well, but as everything else, they will be a little bit more bulky, but that's okay. That's what you signed up for. So as you can see, 6 buttons in the trousers, 10 buttons in the top, 10 to 12, and all you gotta do is go and mark it with a marker, line it up with the insulation holes that accept the buttons, and you're good to go. Bada bing, bada boom, there you go. You now have a winterized Gorka, and you've added more value to your Gorka just by doing a small thing such as adding a couple of buttons. Alright guys, so that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching the episode. As I go in further into the winter, I will do more testing on things like the Tasmanian Tiger Raid Pack, update you on how I set up my winter gear, more gun reviews, more of everything. But I need y'all's support, so make sure we subscribe, and we leave a comment in the comment section. If you like this content, make sure to stick around and let me know in the comments if you want to see more modifications to your gear that add a little bit more value, especially for things like when you're going into the winter. Some gear needs some modern touches or some old school touches to make them just a little bit better. But for the most part, real simple, adds a ton of value. I think everybody should probably do this with their Gorka, especially if you live in the United States where you can get your hands on M65 liners like they're nothing. They're laying around. They're in piles at Army surplus stores. Just go and get some, pay $10, $5 to $10 for a piece, and add it to your system. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later, Hill Hunters.